Hey everybody, Bob Gager from Adobe here, and it's time for another Hangout with Bob. Today we're going to talk about blending a couple photos together. Let's see, before I get started here, welcome to the Google Hangout. There is the ability, if you're attending live, to actually ask me questions as I go along. So hopefully what I'm about to describe is completely obvious and very self-evident, but it's not always that way. So over here on the right-hand side of your screen is a panel where you can type in some questions. If you're not seeing a questions panel over here, then up here somewhere is a little square grid of 9 dots. If you click on that, you get some choices about which panels are showing. Open up the questions panel, and then over here on the right, you can type in your questions. So I'll come back and check fairly regularly to make sure that if anybody is attending live posting questions, I'll get those answers. If you're not attending live, sorry about that, but hopefully what I'm about to explain is going to make perfect sense to you. So we'll see how it goes. These Hangouts with Bob are pretty casual. They're my opportunity to have a live session with our Photoshop Elements fans and users to give you some tips and tricks and techniques on how to use Photoshop Elements to do some pretty cool editing with your photos. So let's get started. First thing I want to do is share my screen. So you can actually see what I'm doing. So I'm going to come over here, do a screen share, just share my desktop, and start my screen share. There we go. I'm going to go switch over to my browser. Oops, sorry. There we go. Sorry about all that. Switch over here and show you sort of what started the subject of this particular Hangout with Bob. And that's some discussions I was having with Dana, who is one of our fans on Facebook. Dana asked a question through our Facebook page about how to composite a couple photos together to create a cool effect. I had Dana post an image of what she's looking to do. And essentially it was this, I guess this is probably a book cover, looks like a book cover. So she posted that and kind of was curious if she could do something like this in Photoshop Elements. Well, Dana, hopefully you're getting a chance to watch this video, and as I mentioned on Facebook, of course you can. So let's go ahead and show you how we can create this kind of thing. All right, let me switch over to Photoshop Elements. So this is Photoshop Elements 14, the very latest version. If you don't have 14, it shouldn't be a problem. All of the techniques I'm going to show you today are available in most of the more recent versions. The user interface has changed a bit. If you're on a version earlier than 11, your user interface is going to look a lot different. Things are going to be in different positions, that kind of stuff. But a lot of the same capabilities are all there. But if you're on 11 or newer, all of the stuff I'm showing you today should work just fine for you. But hopefully you're on 14, and if you're not on 14, hopefully you'll upgrade. We have upgrade pricing, of course, always available on our website. So if you're a user of any previous version of Photoshop Elements, you're eligible for the upgrade pricing. So hopefully that'll help you get up to the very latest version. All right, so let's talk about how we can create this kind of blended effect where we've got two photos blended together. This back photo actually has some colorizing to it, maybe a little texturizing to give it kind of a different feel. We'll just sort of show you how to do that in Photoshop Elements. All right, the trickiest part of all of this, of course, is picking your photos, maybe, which ones you want to blend together. I've got a couple photos here. This is my granddaughter, Audrey, and this is Audrey with my son, Andy. So I'm going to actually blend those two photos together and create a similar effect as to the photo, or I'm sorry, as to the book cover that Dana posted. Let me do a quick switch back to, here we go. Google Hangouts just to see if there's any questions. No, not now. So that's good. I'll just keep going. And hopefully you, if anyone's attending live, you can just type your questions over there. So this photo, we want to blend these two photos together. Let's start by picking kind of our base photo. So I'm going to use this one here as the base photo. Let me just double click my hand to zoom in a little bit so it fits the screen perfectly. All right, the first thing I want to do is kind of move this this photo to the right a bit. My son Andy and Audrey are smack dab in the middle, kind of like the layout of the book cover that Dana posted. The one image is kind of off to the side here, the other image is off to the left side, and so we want to create a similar effect. So we're going to start with this. The first thing that I want to do, though, is convert this layer from a background layer to just a regular layer. Now, when you open a JPEG file in Photoshop Elements, we open it as a background layer, which has certain characteristics in the way it works inside the product. Now, we don't need any of that for this particular technique. So if I just double click on this layer over here on the right, I get a pop-up that says new layer, OK. And all I got to do is click the OK button, and it's going to convert this to a regular layer. Now, for some reason, over on the right-hand side of Photoshop Elements, your layers panel isn't showing. It may look like this. Just come down here to the bottom, these buttons along the bottom right, click the Layers button, and it's going to open up your Layers panel. Now, layers are a really powerful thing that's built into Photoshop Elements. This isn't really a layers tutorial, but we're going to touch on some layers capabilities. Once you start to get a feel for how layers work and layer masks, another thing we're going to touch on today, you really open up a lot of the power of Photoshop Elements. So kind of pay attention to that. If you have some spare time, a quick Google search for Photoshop Elements Layers Explained will get you tons of tutorials that will help you understand layers in a little more detail. All right, so now that we've got just a regular layer with our photo, we want to move Andy and Audrey over to the right. So I'm going to use my Move tool over here on the left in our toolbar. In the Select section is this first tool right here. This is our Move tool. Just go ahead and select the Move tool and click on your photo and drag it to the right. Now, depending upon your photo, of course, you might want to drag it more or less. It's completely up to you how far you want to do it and the composition that you're after. So I kind of want to hide this trash can in the background. That's ugly. I don't need that in my composition. So I'll move Andy and Audrey to the right, almost to the point where the edge of my photo is right up against Andy's back. All right. So Andrew and Audrey are positioned. I may even want to make them a little bigger to take up more of the frame of my photo. I'm going to click on my Zoom tool and hold my Alt or Option key down, depending upon whether you're on Windows or Mac, so I can click and just zoom out a little bit, or maybe zoom in a little bit. So let me kind of go all the way out to there, then back to my Move tool, click on the photo, and you can see there's these little squares in the corner. If I hover my mouse over the square and click on it, and then drag that out, you can see I'm actually resizing that photo. And I want to make it a little bit bigger. While I'm resizing it, I can move it around. Maybe let's move it right about there, and maybe just a touch bigger. Again, you know, the positioning and the sizing is going to completely depend on the composition you're after in your photo. Once I'm done positioning and sizing it, I click this little green check mark to commit those changes, and I can move on from there. All right, the next thing I want to do is take this photo I have. Now, I had previously opened both of these photos to work with them. If you don't have them open yet, well, that's what this open button here is in the top left. You can open up any number of photos here in Photoshop Elements. So down in my photo bin, if your photo bin is not showing along the bottom, that's what this button here is for. It'll hide and show the photo bin. And then also, as you click between these two buttons, you have some tool options down here or the photo bin. So with the photo bin open, select the photo that you'd like to place and sort of take a quick look. All right, this is the photo that I want to use. Click back on our working photo, maybe double click the hand to get things sized properly to fit my screen. And with this photo open or selected, just drag from the photo bin and drop on top of the other photo. Now that's going to take that picture and add it to the other picture as a new layer. So you can see over on the right we have multiple layers. If you're not familiar with layers, just kind of think of them as stacks of photos on top of each other. So at the bottom of my stack, I have this first layer, which is Andy and Audrey. And then on top of that, I've put another photo, which is just Audrey. And so I can't see the photo below because the photo on top is hiding it. Now, if I move this picture of Audrey around, this top layer, so I select that layer, I click on my move tool, and I drag Audrey to the left, you can see I haven't stacked those two photos directly on top of each other. I've kind of shifted the top one. So where the top one isn't, I can see the photo that's underneath. And so that hopefully will give you a basic feel for what layers is all about. Now I want to resize Audrey a little bit as well. So let me zoom out a bit. So I've got some space to work with. Again, select my move tool, grab the corner of that Audrey picture and just drag up so she's kind of filling the full frame. Drag her maybe a little more to the left, something like that. We can always move things later, so I don't have to be perfect now. Click the green check mark to commit those changes, and now she's a little larger in the frame and a little over to the left. The next thing that I want to do is play around with something called layer masks. Now, layer masks are a really cool, powerful feature of Photoshop Elements that let me selectively hide or show parts of a layer. And the way I use them is with a layer selected. I'll select this very topmost layer with Audrey on it and click this button right here at the very top of our layers panel, and it's called Add Layer Mask. So go ahead and click that, and on the layer I had selected, I get this little white thumbnail over here on the right. Now this is what we call a layer mask, and the way layer masks work is if I paint on a layer mask with black, it will hide just that portion of the layer that I'm painting on. So it's all white. Wherever there's white on the mask, that layer is shown. Wherever there's black on a mask, that layer is hidden. And wherever there's some level of gray between black and white, that layer is partially shown. So with my layer mask selected, and I know it's selected with this lighter blue rectangle around the outside of the layer mask thumbnail, I come over here to my toolbar in the draw section. I click on my brush. Down here in my color swatch, I get black as my foreground color. If I've got some other colors, the shortcut to get black and white is this tiny little icon here down here. Just click on that. It'll set your foreground color to white, your background color to black, and then click this double-headed curved arrow thingy here to switch them. So I can quickly go back and forth between black and white. So with black as my foreground color, my brush selected, I might want to switch from my photo bin. I don't really need my photo bin anymore. I want to look at my tool options. I can see the tool options for the brush tool. And so I can click on here. I can pick a brush. There's a bunch of different brushes. What I want to do is sort of pick maybe a larger one with some soft edges on it. And set the opacity, maybe not all the way at 100%, but maybe down around 75%. And what the opacity does is as I paint with my brush, it controls how much painting is actually done, whether it's completely opaque or somewhat transparent. So 75% gives me a little bit of transparency as I paint with black on my layer mask. And then finally, the size of my brush. You can see as I move my brush kind of over here on Audrey's forehead, I've got a tiny little brush. I want a little bigger than that. And so this size slider, I can make it bigger. Now, a keyboard shortcut that's going to be pretty important to learn as you're painting with Photoshop Elements is the brush size keyboard shortcuts. And those are the left and right bracket keys. So look on your keyboard, look for your P key, and the two keys to the right of the P key, that left bracket and right bracket. If you touch the left bracket, as I'm doing, my brush gets smaller. If you touch the right bracket, my brush gets bigger. So this is a really useful keyboard shortcut to know because you're often going to want to make your brushes bigger or smaller. So let's make it about the size of Audrey's head. Move over here to this part of this photo that we don't want. We want the photo beneath it to show through. And just start painting on our layer mask. And you can see as I paint on the layer mask over here on the right, black is showing up. And again, wherever I paint with black, that layer is hidden. Wherever I paint with white, that layer is showing. So I can come around, paint on sort of this right-hand side to hide the picture of Audrey that's on top and covering that lower picture of Audrey and Andy and kind of get a composition that I might be interested in. If I go too far with that, like I don't want that composition at all, right? I can switch from black to white by clicking that, or another keyboard shortcut that's really important to know is the X key. If I hit the X key, I can switch back and forth between black and white. And as I'm painting with layer masks, this is something that you do a lot because you might paint too much and you want white. So now when I paint with white, I can bring Audrey back. If I, again, paint too much, just hit my X key. Now I'm painting with black and I can selectively hide that layer. So with a little bit of work with my painting on the layer mask, changing my brush size, maybe we want to make a brush small to get a little more finer detail, paint with black right in here to hide that. There we go, something like that. It's kind of up to you, again, how you want to blend the two photos together, what kind of composition you're after. Maybe at this point now that I'm starting to see it take shape, I actually want to move Audrey down a little bit, or the bigger Audrey, and maybe even make her even a little bigger. Again, completely up to you how you want to compose these two photos back together. So let's go back, click on my layer mask, get my brush tool again. I want to paint a little bit of white up here because I want that color. Maybe make my brush a little bigger to get some smoother edges between the two. Something like that. Again, what you specifically do with your photo is going to depend on the photo that you've got. All right, so now we've got something like that. Switch back to the book cover again. You can see we've got sort of this blue tinge on the part of the photo on the left, and we don't have the blue tinge on the part of the photo on the right. So let's go talk about how we would create that kind of effect. The first thing that I want to do is actually convert this colored photo of the larger Audrey to black and white. So with this layer selected, under my Enhance menu is a choice called Adjust Color. Oops. I want to convert this to, sorry, this is a smart layer. When I dragged and dropped it on, it created a smart layer. What I want to do is simplify that layer. So I just double-click that layer. I'm sorry, right-click that layer and do Simplify Layer. Where is Simplify Layer? There it is. Sorry, didn't see it for some reason. So right-click on the layer, select Simplify Layer, and that'll get rid of the smart layer. It'll add the mask in that we want to use here, and we're good to go. So now with that layer selected, under Enhance, Adjust Color, I actually just want to remove color, and that's going to convert that layer to black and white. Let me switch back to Google Hangouts again to see if there are any questions. Looks like there are no questions, but we do have somebody watching live. That's awesome. So if you want to ask questions, over here on the right-hand side should be a question panel. If you're not seeing the question panel, then up sort of in that bar across the top, there's a little grid of 9 tiny little dots. Click on that button, and that will allow you to open up the question panel. So as I'm going, if something's not making sense, please ask some questions so that I can make sure I'm getting them answered for you. All right, so back to Photoshop Elements. Here we go. Okay, so now we've got these two photos together. And excuse me, and we want to do that kind of coloring effect. So we converted it to black and white. Now we want to put sort of that blue shade on top, if you will. And the way I do that is with something called an adjustment layer. So with my very topmost layer selected, click on this little icon here. This is our adjustment layer icon. And pick photo filter, like that. And what that'll do is add an adjustment layer called a photo filter. And basically a photo filter is a way to put some different colorization to your photo. And there's warming filters, lots of different choices, cooling filters, lots of different choices. You can see as I pick these, this one's kind of a cooling filter, makes my photo look a little cooler by sort of blending a bluish color. A warming filter, you can see that'll kind of warm up my photo by blending kind of a yellowish orange photo. So I can either just pick one of these preset filters, or I can actually specify the color itself. And I'm going to click on color, then I'm going to click on this little color swatch here. And what I want to do in this photo is actually pick up the color of Andy's shirt. Now I could go to my green section here and try and find the right green. But if I just move my mouse over his shirt and click, oops, I got the wrong layer selected. I don't want to do that. Cancel. I want to click on that. There we go. Click on his shirt. Oh, I've got my mask selected. That's what's going on. All right, so select this layer here and just click on that. There we go. Double click on that. Now I should be able to, there we go. Click on Andy's shirt and you can see it picked up the green of Andy's shirt as my color, and then click OK. So now what I'm doing is applying on top of my entire photo sort of a green tinge. I've done some color matching to Andy's shirt, and I can change the density. If I crank this all the way up to 100%, you can see I've got a really strong green tinge on top of my photos. And let's close this. All right, so I don't want that green tinge on the entire photo. I just sort of want it on this part of the photo on the left of bigger Audrey, and I want to remove it from the photo on the right of Andy and Audrey. And again, that's what this layer mask thing, we touched on layer masks a little earlier. I've got another layer mask with my adjustment layer. I click on that. I come over, make sure my brush tool is selected, make sure black is my foreground color, and just start painting over here. Now make my brush a little bigger. Again, I'm using the right bracket key to make a bigger brush. That's the key that's 2 keys to the right of your P key. And just sort of paint over the right-hand side with black. Now it's not, again, it's not painting black on my photo, it's painting black on this layer mask. And wherever I paint with black, that layer is hidden. Wherever I paint with white, that layer is showing. So I can switch back and forth between black and white to get the effect that I'm really after. If I don't like the green, if I double click on this little icon right here for my layer mask, I can pick a different color. So maybe we want to do yellow. I can crank a bright yellow, or maybe we want to do red. I can do a red, or maybe a blue, kind of similar to the sample that we have. So you can pick whatever color you want. Click OK, and again, painting on that mask, control very precisely where that blue is applied. So let's paint with some more white, excuse me, to have the blue show up. So something like that. Now, one of the really cool things about layers is we can always come back and change things. So if I want to make Audrey even a little bit bigger, I can still come back, click on this middle layer of the bigger Audrey, get my move tool, and oops, click on that layer, and still click on these corners and drag her and make her bigger. If I hover a little just outside the corner and click and drag, I can rotate her, so I can maybe get her into a different position, something like that, maybe make her a little bit bigger. So that's the really cool thing about layers, is I can continue to edit the different components of my composition long after I made an initial adjustment for what I want. So I can do that with the very farthest layer back. If I wanted Andy and Audrey and that one actually smaller now, or bigger now, and maybe move down a little bit, something like that, right? I can completely recompose my photo. Now that I've got things moved around, I've got a little blue tinging where I don't want it, so I'm going to come back and click on this mask and use my brush, set my foreground color to black, and kind of paint over Andy's head here with black and Audrey's head here, because I don't want the blue on top of them. But maybe I want to bring the blue down across this orange of Audrey's dress, switch back to white as my foreground color, and do a little painting here to blue up kind of the lower part of my picture. Maybe something like that to blend the two together. So completely up to you how you want to blend these two together. And that's the basic technique, where what we've done is sort of put two images together. We've done some blue tinging to part of the image and left the other part of the image still in color, something like that. Dana, you mentioned that you didn't really care about the text, but as long as we're here and we're done, let's drop some text in here to sort of finish off our photo. Now, with my very topmost layer selected, I can come over here to the right, my text tool. My tool options change to something completely different with text. Pick a color, maybe, I don't know, let's start with maybe a dark blue to fit with the theme of this blue tinge that we picked. Pick a font. There's a whole bunch of fonts included with Photoshop Elements. Basically, any font that's installed in your system will be in the list. And pick a style and a size and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and start typing, because again, we can always change it later. Type Audrey and Andy and submit that. Now that was a little small, so I just have to drag the corner out. It's going to make it bigger, move it around, maybe make it a little bigger. I don't have to do proportional dragging. If I drag this up, it'll actually make it taller or shorter or whatever. So again, up to you, sort of the look that you want, the positioning that you want. This blue, actually, at this point, I don't like it because it kind of doesn't stand out very strong. So I'll just double click the whole thing. It'll select all my text. Coming back, maybe let's pick white to have it totally stand out. Click the green check mark. There we go. So now we've got some nice white text. It stands out pretty good. I want to actually have it pop a little more. And with this text layer selected, I want to go up to my layers panel and come down to layer style and pick style settings and just check on drop shadow. And adding a little drop shadow, you might need to adjust the sizing, distance, these kind of things to get your drop shadow to show up nicely. It's all going to depend on the resolution of your photo, but really just a small little drop shadow is going to help things stand out a little bit. You might also want to try a bevel. Bevels are sometimes cool. We can do a bevel up, and we can adjust the size, maybe something like that, and then just click OK. So you can see we've given our text a little bit of a bevel. We've given it a little bit of drop shadow just to get it to stand out. And we can always come back and edit our text. Just double click on it, select maybe the capital A. I want that to be a lowercase a, so retype it. And I can still make it larger or smaller or move it or any of those things that I might want to do. So maybe let's do something like that. There we go. So we've embellished our photo with a little bit of text. We've done this sort of blending of two photos together. We've given a blue tinge to part of the photo. Let me double click the hand to get it to pop open a little bigger. Let me close my tool options, double click my hand again to make it even larger. And I can even close my layers panel, so we're just focused in on the photo. So there you go, Dana. There's the technique to achieve what you were asking about. Hopefully this is the technique that you are after. There you go. So let me switch back to Google Hangouts again, see if there are some questions. Oh, great, some questions. Why did you remove the layer to adjust the color? Hey, Carol. Yeah, so the reason I did that was just to kind of make the blue coloring a little more even. If I had left the color in, then it wouldn't just be a pure blue. It would be blue mixed with skin tones or backgrounds or whatever. And so to kind of demo that, let me come back to my my adjustment layer where we're adding the blue and the mask, and let me paint with white on top of Andy's head. Maybe make my brush a little smaller. So you can see where I'm painting, on top of a skin tone. It blends the blue tone with the skin or Andy's red hair or whatever, and it looks differently. So by converting it to black and white first, I get sort of a pure variation of different shades of blue instead of the blue being mixed with whatever color I happen to have that blue on top. So as an example, if I click this layer and I come back to Enhance and adjust color, remove color, you'll see when I convert that layer to black and white, the blue tones look different than, let me come do an undo, than if the blue is on top of a skin tone. So that's why I converted this larger picture of Audrey to black and white before I added the adjustment layer on top. So I'm going to erase the blue here. There we go. We don't really need all of that kind of thing. Oh, it looks like I've actually got some of this layer that needs to be erased as well. So I'll just use my eraser tool to get rid of some of that. There we go. Something like that. Clean it up a little bit. Back to my adjustment layer. Paint black some more to clean up Andy's face here. We got some on his shoulder and down below. So there you go. All right. Remember that question? Thanks, you bet. Glad I could help. Let's see, when you started out, another question from Carol, when you started out, why didn't you use a duplicate layer to start? I thought you couldn't make adjustments on the locked layer. Start out, didn't you use a duplicate layer to start? I did I didn't do a duplicate layer. I could have. What I did is just converted the layer from the original background layer to a regular layer. So let me actually real quickly go back, or I'll actually just go to a different layer, or a different photo. So this photo, when you first open up a JPEG, it's a background layer, and yeah, the capabilities of a background layer are limited. And so there's two ways to remove any of those limitations. The first would be, or one, as you described, is to create a duplicate layer. And the way I would do that is just drag and drop the layer onto my new layer icon. Now I've got a copy of my background layer that's just a regular layer, and I can do anything I want to it. Or what I can do is double click on a layer and just click OK. And what that is going to do is convert my background layer to a regular layer, and now I can do kind of any kind of adjustments I want to it. So either way would work. It's just sort of preferences, whether you want a bunch of layers in your layers panel or not. Completely up to you which way you might want to go. Oops, I should have done that. Still learning how to use this Google Hangouts thing perfectly. All right, so I missed that part, came in late, no problem. Hopefully I answered your question in a way that made sense. All right, so that is the end of the tutorial. Thanks for hanging out with me. Carol, if you've got any final questions, go ahead and ask them now, whether they're related to this tutorial or, quite frankly, anything that you might want to learn with Photoshop Elements. We've still got a little bit of time, so I'd be happy to answer those questions if you've got another one. I'm going to try and do these Hangouts with Bob on a regular basis. Probably Wednesdays is looking like kind of a good time to start to do them on a more regular basis. I know today's Thursday. I was actually trying to do this one Tuesday, but had to reschedule it because something came up Tuesday. But I'm going to try and settle in on a pre-booked time and block that for hanging out with Bob. So if you find these useful, if you're watching after the fact, let me stop screen sharing. There we go. I'm sure you'd love to see me. That's what it's all about after all. Anyway, so anyway, yeah. If you sort of keep an eye on my profile page on Google+, as I schedule these Hangouts with Bob, the new ones will show up there at least a couple days ahead of time, and hopefully they're at a time that works for you guys. If it's not a time that works for you guys, go ahead and post some questions in there of what you might want to hear about, and I'll try and do some tutorials on your questions. So there you go. Another question from Carol. Will you do some tutorials on the tools? Sure, I can do tutorials on any tools. There are a lot of tools in Photoshop Elements. So we could spend hours and hours and hours going through all the tools. If there's a specific tool that you'd like to learn more about, let me know. Post a question on my profile page or in our Facebook page, and I can do a deep dive on any of the tools that you might be interested in, or if you're interested in just sort of a high-level flyby of all this stuff, that would be fine as well. I usually like to do tutorials around sort of an end goal, like this one we did today, where Dana was trying to figure out how to accomplish a particular look, and along the way sort of teach you about some of the tools that are necessary. But if there is a specific tool, Carol, that you want a deep dive on, just let me know, and maybe we'll do that next week with a quick Ask Bob. All right. Any last minute questions? Otherwise, we'll sign off for the day. Again, thanks for hanging out with me. Hopefully you guys find this helpful, and we will continue to try and do these live sessions to answer your questions about Photoshop Elements, give you some tips and tricks and techniques on how to achieve some of the really cool stuff that you can. So for now, signing off, and I hope you all have a great day. Take care.